News of the Times. The actress who tried to kill her mother. The 1909 rope and knife ambush. Welcome to News of the Times. In May 1909, a young woman named Winifred Kirk, described variously as a barmaid, an actress, and attractive and tastefully dressed, stood in court accused of a crime so shocking it made national headlines. Her alleged victim, her own mother. Lured by letter to a remote lane, Lucy Kirk was ambushed with a skipping rope and slashed with a shoemaker's knife in what prosecutors called a premeditated attack. The daughter's note to her sister, found later, said simply, "Well, Lucy, the reason I'm going out today is because I've planned to kill Mother." But was this an attempted murder by a calculating young woman, or a moment of madness sparked by family disgrace, public shame, and a longing to disappear into a new life? This is a true Edwardian era crime, featuring secret letters, a dramatic courtroom statement, and eerie calm from the accused, and a rope allegedly used for the fun of the thing. As always, this episode is based entirely on contemporary newspaper sources, and in today's further particular segment, British newspapers report with restrained admiration that only 20 people perished during America's most recent attempt to celebrate freedom with gunpowder and patriotism. A new low in both the statistical and cultural sense. So, pop the kettle on, secure any nearby ropes and cutlery, and prepare for another tale of Edwardian mayhem. As ever, the facts are true, the expressions are dated, and the decisions questionable. Sit back and enjoy the show. Background. Winifred Kirk, sometimes known as Winifred Kirk Lee, was just 19 years old when she found herself at the center of a sensation in the spring of 1909. Described in court as both a barmaid and an actress, although neither title seemed fully confirmed, she lived in the Derbyshire village of Clown with her older sister Lucy Fisher, having moved there the previous December. With her stylish appearance and attractive looks, Winifred presented a striking figure in the courtroom, tastefully dressed, self-assured, and entirely capable of turning drama into theatre. Her letters, florid, intense, and secretive, had summoned her estranged mother, Lucy Kirk, to meet her on a remote country road between Clown and Worksop. What followed was an extraordinary ambush involving a rope, a hidden knife, and a chilling declaration: "You must die, Mother. You must die today." Emotionally volatile and prone to extremes, Winifred was clearly troubled. The mother and the victim, Lucy Kirk, in her late 40s or early 50s, was no stranger to public whispers. Living alone in a modest lodgings in Worksop, she had long since parted ways with her husband under circumstances that were far from amicable. Local talk hinted at alcohol playing a central role in their estrangement, and although details remained murky, the effect on the family name was undeniable. For her daughter, Winifred, it was a lingering source of shame, the kind that simmers quietly and erupts at inconvenient moments. Lucy's drinking, if not constant, was certainly noticed. There were suggestions she had developed a fondness for spirit that was less about celebration and more about coping. She moved through life somewhat on the edge, still in touch with her daughter, yes, but not closely trusted. When the letter arrived asking her to meet Winifred on a quiet country road, Lucy likely came in hope of reconciliation, or at least understanding. The idea that her own daughter might view her as a liability and an embarrassment, or even an enemy, may have never occurred to her until that day. In the summer of 1909, on a quiet stretch of road between Clown and Worksop, a brutal and deeply personal ambush took place. 19-year-old Winifred Kirk had written to her mother asking her to meet halfway between their two towns. Lucy Kirk, living alone in Worksop, agreed, perhaps hoping to mend old wounds or offer support. But what unfolded was not a reconciliation. According to early reports, Winifred lured her mother into the countryside with hidden intentions. Once alone, she allegedly slipped a rope around Lucy's neck and began to strangle her. When that failed, she produced a shoemaker's knife concealed in her clothing and slashed at her mother's throat, seriously injuring her, although miraculously sparing the main artery. Lucy was later discovered collapsed on the roadside and rushed to Worksop Hospital by cart. Meanwhile, Winifred fled the scene, making it as far as Mansfield before she was tracked down. Officers recognized her from a description and, after some questioning, she admitted to being the woman they were looking for. She was arrested and transferred back to Clown to face the charge of attempted murder. From the Nottingham Evening Post, 23rd of April, 1909. Tragic affair near Worksop. Woman attacked by the roadside. Daughter charged with attempted murder. A smart capture was effected by the Mansfield police at Mansfield yesterday afternoon. It stated that a young woman who had been living at Clown was wanted by the Derbyshire police on the charge of the attempted murder of her mother on Wednesday on the roadside between Clown and Worksop. The girl was traced to Mansfield, and the two police officers recognized her by the description which had been issued. The girl at the time was in conversation with someone in Rosemary Street in Mansfield, and she was at once arrested and subsequently was handed over to the Derbyshire police. According to the police information, it appears that the girl wrote asking her mother, who lives at Worksop, to meet her. The mother did so, and it is alleged was immediately attacked by her daughter, who, it is said, first tried to strangle her by placing a rope around her neck, and afterwards drew a shoemaker's knife and inflicted very severe injuries on the mother's neck. The girl then decamped, leaving her mother in an exhausted state on the roadside. Sometime later, the woman's cries attracted the attention of Mr. D. Marshall of Clown, who with his brother was driving past the spot. She was greatly exhausted from the loss of blood and from shock, but had strength enough to tell them that she had been stabbed. She was placed in the trap and driven to Dr. Lawson's surgery at Whitwell, where the wound was stitched up, and she then removed to the Worksop Hospital, where she lies in a critical condition. Prisoner in court. At Clown Police Court this morning, Winifred Kirk, 19, residing with her sister, Mrs. Albert Fisher, at 91 Rectory Road in Clown, was charged with the attempted murder of her mother, Mrs. Kirk, of 39 Gladstone Street in Worksop. Sergeant Morley stated that the accused met her mother by appointment in Doe Lane, a byway leading from the workshop main road to Whitwell, on the previous Wednesday afternoon, and after unsuccessfully attempting to strangle her with a rope, she produced a knife and cut her mother in the throat, inflicting an ugly wound 2 inches long by half an inch deep. The accused then made off in the direction of Clown and subsequently took a train from that place to Mansfield, where witnesses arrested her. The mother was taken to the surgery of Dr. Lawson at Whitwell and afterwards to the Worksop Hospital. What followed made headlines across Derbyshire. The case, swiftly dubbed the Whitwell sensation, but it would be weeks before Winifred faced formal charges in court. Her mother's injuries were so severe she remained hospitalised and unable to testify until May. When the moment finally came, it was at the Ecklington Police Court that the next chapter unfolded. The young woman at the centre of the case, described in turns as a domestic servant, a barmaid, and even an actress, was led in before the magistrates dressed with striking care and composure. And as the evidence began to unfold, so too did one of the more bizarre and unsettling tales Derbyshire had heard in some time. From the Nottingham Evening Post, 10th of May 1909, the Whitwell sensation. Barmaid charged with attempted murder, a mother's sad story. Prisoner's remarkable statement. The Whitwell sensation had its sequel at the Ecklington Police Court today, when Winifred Kirk, or Kirk Lee, aged 19, of Clown, who is variously described as a barmaid and an actress, was charged with the attempted murder of her mother, Lucy Kirk, or Kirk Lee, at Whitwell. It was as long ago as April the 21st that the alleged attack was made, but complainant's injuries were so serious that it was not possible to convey her from the Workshop Hospital until today. The prisoner, who had previously been brought up at Derby and remanded, is an attractive-looking girl, and she was tastefully dressed. The prosecution was in the hands of Superintendent Andrews, a severe wound. Dr. W.W.J. Lawson at Whitwell was the first witness. He said that when Mrs. Kirk was brought to his surgery, she was suffering from a wound at the back of the right ear, about 2¼ inches long, gaping about 3/4 of an inch at the widest part, and about 3/4 of an inch deep at the point furthest from the ear. The knife produced would be likely to have inflicted it. The woman was suffering from shock and loss of blood and was in a very dazed condition, so he could not get a rational story from her for some time. A remarkable story by the prisoner. Lucy Kirk, mother of the prisoner, who lives at Worksop, apart from her husband, stated that she received a letter from her daughter on the 20th inst, asking her to come and see her without fail on the following afternoon between Clown and Worksop. The letter enjoined her to come alone and not to tell the Hursts, the people she was staying with. The writer, her daughter, said that she would be on the road and not come straight into Workshop, and added a request that her mother should not write to her. On the following morning, a picture postcard came from her daughter, telling her to be sure and come and not to disappoint her. She had important news. Witness set off at about 11:45 and got as far along the road as the half moon, where she rested. She saw her daughter coming and went to meet her, taking with her into the inn for refreshment. Winifred said she had been to Mansfield on Saturday and had attended a social with a young man named Vickers, afterwards going for a walk to Robert's Mill. They had some words, she said, about his going away. He had enlisted and was going on the following Monday, and she told him he would not go. He had a loaded stick, and the girl said, "Mother, I've lost my head," and struck him on the top of the head with it. "Oh, mother, I've killed him." His death was announced in Monday's morning papers. She further told her mother that she would never be happy again. Continuing, the witness said that they went for a walk, during which she asked the girl to give her the full particulars, as she could not believe it was true. They went into a field off the main road and sat down, the girl repeating the details. Whilst in the field, she turned her head and said, "There is a body coming, mother." So they walked across the fields, past the policeman, towards Whitwell. Witness wished to go to the station so that she could return by train, and so that her daughter, who did not look well, would go to Clown by train. She, her daughter, stopped suddenly and refused to go, as she was untidy, and suggested that they should go down a narrow road leading to the workshop highway. They accordingly went that way, still talking about the Mansfield young man. "You must die, mother." All at once, said the witness, her daughter turned around and threw a piece of cord over my head, and the front part getting into my mouth. I said, "Oh, Winnie, what are you going to do?" And I got hold of the cord with both hands. And she said, "No, no, mother, don't do that. It's of no use. You must die. You must die today." At this juncture, the witness almost broke down and had to be given a seat in the box. Having recovered, the witness proceeded. She was pulling the cord with her left hand, and she drew a knife from her bosom with her right. My head was down, and I could not see at the time, but I heard it drawn out of the sheath. She struck me with her right hand at my neck, and the knife penetrated the skin. It was bleeding, and I saw the reality of the thing. I recognized that she would hurt me. I didn't think she would before I caught her sleeve, and she passed the knife from right hand into her left. She made an attempt to strike again, but I prevented her from hurting me by getting hold of the knife and throwing it over the hedge. I went across the road and she followed. She then got the rope around my neck again, saying, "It's no use, mother. You'll have to die." She had got me down in a fence on my back, but I got away again. She followed me across the road to Whitwell, but a trap came in sight, and the girl begged me not to give her up. A threat of suicide. Continuing, Mrs. Kirk said that her daughter put her collar up to hide the wound. There was a lady in the trap, and witness asked her to send assistance. Winifred then came to her and asked her for some money, kissed her, and again asked her not to give her up. Then she went away, saying she would kill herself and they would find her body in Whitwell Wood. Having concluded her evidence, Mrs. Kirk completely broke down, crying bitterly, and she had to be taken out of court. Miss Lucy Fisher of Clown said the prisoner was her sister and had lived with her since December 1908. On Wednesday, the 21st of April, she went out between 11 and 12 o'clock, saying she would not be long. She had complained during the night of being ill and had obtained some brandy from the witness. The witness returned during the afternoon, very excited, saying, when asked where she had been, "Don't ask my questions. You'll know soon enough." She went upstairs, changed her clothes, and returning, borrowed 2 shillings, saying she was going to catch a train. Later in the day, witness remembered that her sister, before going out in the morning, had written a letter, and upon seeking, she found it. It was addressed to her sister Lucy and read, "You will wonder what I have written this for, but please do not worry about me. I feel very ill this morning, and I am afraid if I go on like this, I shall not be here long. Well, Lucy, the reason for my going out today is because I have planned to kill Mother. She's no good, only in the way. If I get off scot-free, all will be well, but don't tell Albert or anyone. No one must follow me, and if I am unknown, I shall put the banns in at Mansfield. Loving, Winnie." I had made arrangements to meet her. The knife, an ordinary shoemaker's knife with sheath, and the rope were, the witness added, both her property and were kept on the cellar shelf. What the police found, PC Storer, stationed at Whitwell, deposed to searching Doe Lane in Whitwell, and said that about half a mile down the road he found signs of a struggle. On the ground was a woman's hair pad and an empty spectacle case, and in the field on the right of the road, about 10 yards from the hedge, he found a knife bearing a bloodstain. Mrs. Kirk identified the pad as hers and the knife as that used by her daughter against her. The next day he made further search, and a quarter of a mile nearer Whitwell found the rope in a field near the left-hand lane. Sergeant Morley of Clown went in search of the prisoner and found that she left Clown in the direction of Mansfield. The following day, on his second journey to Mansfield, he found the prisoner with a young man in one of the streets. On explaining his errand to her, she replied, "No, not me. It was her that threatened me." The prisoner's strange statement. Winifred Kirk was then asked whether she had anything to say in her defence, and what followed was a rambling, contradictory monologue that veered between confession, justification, and what might generously be called confused logic. She admitted writing the letter that lured her mother to the isolated lane, claiming she just wanted to talk, ostensibly about a letter she had intercepted and burned concerning housing arrangements between her parents. But the conversation quickly soured. According to Winifred, her mother spoke of dying dramatically on the doorstep of her family home and placing a curse upon them all. Winifred, in her own words, said she was tired of people talking about her, and with mounting frustration and shame over her mother's reputation, claimed to have lost her head. She threw a rope around her mother's neck and declared, "You must die. I can't stand this disgrace any longer." The tale then shifts erratically. She says her mother pulled her hair, that she drew a knife, one she'd been carrying for weeks, but only meant to frighten her, that the wound was accidental, that she tied a handkerchief around her mother's neck to help, and that she begged her mother not to report her, that she planned to take her own life, but changed her mind, that she tried to avoid paying the train fare because of a policeman at the booking office, and that she meant to speak to her father, but was arrested first. It is a statement riddled with gaps, switches in tone, and moments of startling coldness, followed by sudden pivots into regret. Whether calculated or confused, her account left many unsettled and offered little in the way of clarity. Questioned, Winifred's responses were equally bizarre. For the fun of things, asked by Superintendent Andrews why she was carrying a knife about, the girl replied it was for the fun of the thing. The superintendent, why did you take the rope? I had been skipping with it, and I met a gentleman while I was skipping and spoke to him. Why did you take the knife out of your pocket? It was only to frighten her. Why did you throw the rope over her? That was in a fit of temper. Why did you write such a letter to your sister? That's nothing fresh. I always write some rubbish like that. There's no rubbish about a letter like that. It's a serious matter. I have been very low, and I didn't care what I did. Asked why she did not stop to help her mother when she was wounded, the prisoner said she asked her if she should stay, but her mother replied, "You have done, you must suffer." She also said, "I know where there is some water, let us go down and drown ourselves together." Prisoner was committed for trial at the Derbyshire Assizes and put in an application for legal assistance under the Poor Prisoners Defence Act. And so, the Whitwell sensation reached its dramatic crescendo in the grand, echoing halls of the Derbyshire Assizes. The courtroom was packed. Curiosity had bloomed into full-blown scandal, fueled by rumours of barmaids, actresses, and attempted murder on a quiet country lane. Winifred Kirk, or Kirkley, took the dock, no longer the composed figure seen at earlier hearings. As her family gave evidence, the young woman who had once described herself as tired of the disgrace now crumbled under its weight. The trial would reveal bitter division, disputed claims of alcohol and abandonment, and a courtroom torn between condemnation and pity. From the Nottingham Evening Post, the 7th of June, 1909, Whitwell sensation. Barmaid charged with attempted murder, found guilty at Derbyshire Assizes. At Derbyshire Assizes today, before Mr. Justice Lawrence, Winifred Kirk, or Kirkley, 19, of Clown, variously described as a barmaid and an actress, indicted for attempting to murder her mother, Lucy Kirk, or Kirkley, at Whitwell. Mrs. Kirkley was asked on cross-examination whether her separation from her husband was not due to her drunken habits, and this was emphatically denied. Her married daughter, however, declared that this was the case. Both of these witnesses agreed that the prisoner's age was 19 instead of 21, as stated in the calendar, and Mrs. Fisher said that she had looked after her for 8 years, and that during the past 3 years she had been earning her own livelihood. Dr. Lawson of Whitwell gave evidence as to the dimensions of the wound. Prisoner's self-possession deserted her when her sister was put into the witness box. Throughout the whole of the remainder of the proceeding, she wept bitterly. The defence. In his speech for the defence, Mr. Lawrence said prisoner's sole intention was to frighten her mother. who had come back to live in Clown, where her intemperate habit had always caused annoyance and disgrace to her daughter. The mother's evidence was vindictive. Probably the daughter's hand did slip during the struggle, and the cut was unintentionally inflicted. The jury found the prisoner guilty, but strongly recommended her to mercy on account of her youth. The judge postponed sentence until tomorrow morning in order that he might consult the prison doctor. But even after the guilty verdict had been handed down, one question lingered heavily in the courtroom. Was the young woman entirely sane? Her conduct had been erratic, her statements contradictory, and her emotional collapse in the dock suggested deeper instability. The court paused. Mr. Justice Lawrence, unwilling to rush judgment, ordered sentencing to be delayed until the following morning. He would spend the evening consulting the prison doctor and the chaplain to determine whether something more than mere criminality was at play. The answer arrived the next day, wrapped in a strange letter and a sentence that stirred public debate. From the Nottingham Evening Post, the 8th of June, 1909. 5 years penal servitude. Clown barmaid sentenced for attempted matricide. Another extraordinary letter. Mr. Justice Lawrence at the Derbyshire Assizes passed sentence upon Winifred Kirk, or Kirkley, the clown barmaid and ex-actress who was convicted yesterday of attempting to murder her mother, whom she stabbed in the neck with a knife after noosing her around the neck with a rope at Whitwell. His lordship reminded the prisoner that she had been found guilty of a crime second only to that of murder, and that nothing could possibly have saved her own life if that of her mother had been taken. Had it been murder, a more cruel murder could not have been committed. She had made every inquiry into the case, and had seen both the chaplain and the doctor of the jail to ascertain if any light could be thrown upon the matter. The judge referred to a letter Winifred had written to her mother months before the attack, one that sharply contradicted the defence's claim that she resented her mother's drinking and separation from her father. In the letter, Winifred seemed to side with her mother, encouraging her not to worry about reconciliation and blaming another woman, Mrs. S., for manipulating her father, and it ended on a strange and unsettling note. Well, mother, cheer up and don't let things worry you. If Dad should offer, don't alter, I shall poison the lot. And yet, his lordship remarked, you are representing as having been affected by her drunken habit, that you wanted to get rid of her for your father's sake. It is extremely difficult to know the best thing to do with you, but knowing that you will be taken care of as far as your health is concerned and properly watched, the least sentence I can pass upon you is one of penal servitude for 5 years. Prisoner burst into tears on hearing the sentence and was removed, still crying. Further particulars. And now we take a detour from attempted matricide to the always cheering subject of explosive national holidays and dramatically reduced death tolls. From the Sunderland Daily Echo and Shipping Gazette, July the 6th, 1912, Sana, 4th of July. The 4th of July celebrations in America were successfully completed at a cost of only 20 lives. Yes, only 20, a triumph of moderation. Gone are the days when celebrating independence required the annual sacrifice of several dozen fingers, 3 or 4 rooftops, and a postman. Progress, it seems, can be measured in limbs. From the Sunderland Daily Echo and Shipping Gazette, the 6th of July, 1912. Sana, 4th of July. The 4th of July celebrations in America was successfully completed at a cost of only 20 lives, and America is congratulating itself on the setting up of a new low record in the history of Independence Day. The 4th has ever been a carnival of death, as will be seen from the previous lowest record of 46 deaths and 1,756 cases of injury in 1909. Many states and cities, say the Daily Dispatch, have forbidden the use of or sale of fireworks and firearms for the national celebration, and it seems as if in 5 or 6 years' time it will really be possible for patriotic Americans to celebrate the national holiday without killing anybody. And there we are. If you've enjoyed the bizarre little slice of Edwardian rope and dagger melodrama, do consider liking, subscribing, or even sharing it. That one peculiar acquaintance who collects Victorian dental instruments and insists on calling their dog Mother. Every click helps destabilize the cruel tyranny of the YouTube algorithm, which currently favors videos titled "I bought a haunted sauna" on Wish over, say, niche historical content involving rope, ambushes, and matricide. Thanks for watching, and remember, in Edwardian England, even a family reunion could end in a cart-based transport to the nearest hospital. If you'd like to support the continued production of ad-free murder, scandal, and nostalgia, occasional podcast ramblings for sleepless nights, and weak stabs at British humour, why not join us on Patreon? For a measly £5 a month, roughly the cost of a lukewarm railway sandwich and a questionable pint, you'll unlock the full backlog of ad-free historical documentaries, inclusive of extras and member-only chaos. There's even a free 1-week trial, no hidden clauses, no secret handshakes, and cancellation is as painless as politely excusing oneself from a Victorian seance. Join us and help keep the lamps burning in this dimly lit corner of history. News of the Times Historical Crime at patreon.com. This has been News of the Times, and I am Robin Coles, narrative chronicler of things obscured by mist, men, and misguided moustaches. Can the last one out blow out the candle?